Vanakkam. Welcome to this session on ECC versus S/4HANA, the key functional differences in SAP production planning. If you are a business user, consultant, or SAP project manager preparing for an S/4HANA implementation or migration, this session is designed for you. We are going to decode what is different, why those differences matter, and how you can leverage these insights to improve your planning processes and deliver measurable business outcomes. Let us get started. In the last session, you learned the improvements and upgrades in business processes in S/4HANA over ECC. We discussed the evolution of SAP from R3 to S/4HANA and why you should understand this evolution, the support timelines of ECC and S/4HANA, and why SAP developed S/4HANA with the power of SAP HANA database. And also we discussed the interface changing from GUI to Fiori. And the key learning was how to trace the updates and the simplification in each version. So you will also updated in the SAP features. We discussed various improvements and simplifications in processes. In this session, we will walk through the core differences in SAP production planning, which was in ECC and now in S/4HANA. You will learn how MRP Live has redefined planning, how the mandatory use of production versions impact order creation, and how Fiori-based MRP Cockpit has replaced traditional reports. We will also introduce advanced features like Predictive MRP, Demand-Driven MRP, and Embedded PPDS, so you can see the direction in which SAP is heading. Finally, we will conclude with a consultant-focused checklist to help you align your system, master data, and user training for S/4HANA readiness. Many believe S/4HANA is just a technical upgrade, but in reality, it's a functional shift that transforms how planning is done in SAP. Features that worked in ECC may no longer exist, and many core processes like MRP, output forms, or subcontracting are now handled differently. SAP S/4HANA introduces faster background jobs, simplified planning logic, and new planning tools. But to benefit from them, we need to adapt. That's why understanding these differences is not optional, it is critical for consultants to deliver the projects, for planners to execute the production and planning, and for organizations making strategic decisions. Let us now dive into the first major change, Classic MRP versus MRP Live. In ECC, we relied on Classic MRP executed through SAP GUI transactions like MD01, MD02, and MD03. These were ABAP-based processed sequentially. In contrast, MRP Live in S/4HANA uses the power of HANA database to perform in-database logic execution and parallel processing. It consolidates multiple transactions into one MD01N, that is MRP Live, and drastically improves MRP performance, especially in large plants. While Classic MRP is still supported temporarily through the compatibility pack, all future development is focused on MRP Live. Business users and consultants must prepare for this shift by reviewing enhancements, planning variants, and execution strategy across plants and MRP controllers. Classic MRP in ECC used to take time. Large runs could take hours with limited visibility and complex table dependencies. S/4HANA transforms MRP through MRP Live, a high-speed in-memory planning engine that reads data directly from columnar tables. Planning can now run across multiple plants in minutes. You can also get a simplified data models, faster pegging analysis, and better transparency. For business users and consultants, this is the time to optimize BOM structures, MRP areas, and materials for compatibility with MRP Live. The result? A dramatically faster, and more responsive planning cycle. MRP Live does not just improve MRP performance, but it transforms the user experience. Traditional ECC spent hours in MD04, MD06 and other T codes navigating spreadsheets of data. In S/4HANA, the MRP Cockpit provides role-based Fiori apps that offer planners a real-time, intuitive, and actionable interface. Apps like monitor material coverage, show immediate shortages, and users can drill down or even initiate follow-up actions like rescheduling or purchase order conversion within the same app. This is not just a visual upgrade, it changes how planning is done. Business users and consultants must ensure users are trained not just on functionality, but also how to interpret and respond to Fiori-based insights. I will publish a specific session on how to use these kind of apps like monitor material coverage, how to run MRP live, etc. in our SAP Bytes session. In ECC, many clients bypassed production versions. They simply configured BOM and routing selection priorities and let SAP decide. But in S/4HANA, that flexibility is gone. Production versions are now mandatory for both the planned orders and the production orders. Also, it is required for subcontracting procurement, mean to export bill of materials, production version is mandatory. The system will not create proposals unless a valid production version is available for the material. Without a valid production version, even perfect BOM's routings won't generate planned orders. Make mass creation of production versions part of your migration checklist. This change enforces master data discipline, ensuring that BOM and routing combination is clear, controlled, and consistently used across costing, planning, and execution. For consultants and data teams, this means every in-house produced item and subcontracting item must be reviewed to ensure valid, active production versions are in place and properly aligned with business process. In ECC, the planning file had more flexibility. You could configure net change within planning horizon, regenerative planning, or combine them using planning horizons. But in S/4HANA, SAP has simplified the planning file. Planning horizons are no longer used. The system focuses on net change planning and uses low-level codes to plan from top-level finished goods to raw materials in sequence. This simplification improves performance and aligns better with MRP Live's parallel processing model. Consultants need to review how their clients were using planning horizons and update their planning variants and logic accordingly. In ECC, although storage location level planning and MRP areas were technically available, many organizations skipped them due to complexity. In S/4HANA, SAP actively encourages the use of MRP areas, helping you segregate planning by subcontractor, storage location, or internal consumption zones. Also, subcontracting has been enhanced. You get better visibility into component requirements, subcontracting stocks, and exceptions, all within the MRP cockpit or related Fiori apps. This is a big plus for manufacturing clients who struggle with component shortages at vendors. You should restructure subcontracting flows and implement MRP areas for cleaner and more precise planning. When we talk about lot sizing and scheduling in SAP, it is important to be clear. The logic has not changed from ECC to S/4HANA. The logic is identical, but HANA's speed means you can experiment or optimize lot sizes and lead times much more easily. The same static, periodic, and optimal lot sizing procedures still exist. The same scheduling controls, forward, backward, and lead time offsets also remain unchanged. What is changed is how these settings are interrupted during real-time MRP execution. With MRP Live, these calculations are faster, run in memory, and integrate smoothly with tools like DDMRP and PPDS, making planning outcomes more responsive. As a consultant, our role is to audit and validate the master data, not assume the system will magically improve outcomes. Clean, realistic lead times and appropriate lot sizing still drive effective planning and efficient planning, just like in ECC. I published what is the impact of lot sizing procedure, a small parameter, big impact in our SAP Bytes playlist. Please go through that to understand what is the importance of lot sizing procedure. In ECC, demand planning strategies were flexible, perhaps too flexible. Strategy groups like 10, 20, 40, 50, 60, 63, 81 to 86 covered many planning behaviors like forecast-based planning, make to order, and assemble to order. In S4HANA, still support all these, but encourages customers to focus on a smaller, more business-aligned strategy set. You will see SAP training and documentation now promoting strategy 10 for MTS, strategy 20 for MTO, strategy 40 for forecast plus actuals, and strategy 50 for planning without final assembly. For modern supply chains, SAP suggests looking beyond traditional forecast based planning. DDMRP offers a decoupled buffer based model that simplifies lower level planning logic, and pMRP helps simulate capacity and material impacts before execution. As a user and consultant, this means revalidating every strategy group in use, simplifying where possible, and recommending DDMRP or pMRP where business needs to justify it. In ECC, production order outputs like shop floor papers were generated using NACE framework built on condition techniques, user exits, and print programs. Any change required a mix of ABAP and functional expertise was required. In S4HANA, output management has been standardized across modules using BRF Plus, the Business Rule Framework Plus. You can define conditions, formats, and rules in an intuitive decision table without custom coding. Whether it is a production order, purchase order, or delivery, BRF Plus applies the same consistent logic. For consultants, this means migrating existing output types from NACE to BRF Plus, aligning the templates, and enabling business users to control output rules with a minimal IT involvement. This means BRF Plus gives functional teams more control and IT no longer a bottleneck for printed documents. DDMRP challenges a fundamental assumption in traditional MRP that we can forecast the future accurately. Instead, it proposes buffer positioning based on actual consumption and strategic decoupling. In S4HANA, DDMRP is fully embedded. You can define buffer profiles, set reorder logic based on net flow position, and monitor results visually. For business users, this brings stability. For consultants, it means understanding how buffer zones work and how to guide clients through DDMRP setup and performance tracking. While ECC provided long-term planning (LTP) for simulative planning, it was often underutilized due to setup effort and disconnected analysis. In S4HANA, we now have a predictive MRP, that is pMRP, a much more powerful, visual, and planner-friendly simulation tool. With the pMRP, you can simulate various demand plans, see the impact on capacity and material availability, and evaluate whether your vendors and internal resources can support those plans. It integrates well with S&OP, and you can even transfer validated plans into operative MRP once finalized. Consultants should help clients identify high impact SKUs or bottlenecks and enable planners to use pMRP for guided decision making before executing actual MRP runs. In ECC, if you needed advanced planning, you would rely on SAP APO, which meant a separate SCM system, CF integrations, and maintenance overhead. S4HANA changes that. PPDS is now embedded in the core digital stack, no separate system, no CAF needed. You get real-time capabilities like finite capacity scheduling, dynamic pegging, and multi-sourcing planning. For consultants, it is about knowing when to activate PPDS scope, setting up heuristic-based planning, and training users to leverage graphical planning boards and alerts effectively. Just to summarize, use DDMRP for volatile components, pMRP for simulation-driven planning, and embedded PPDS for finite scheduling. SAP S/4HANA PP is no longer a standalone backend. It now connects natively to SAP Integrated Business Planning or IBP. With this cloud-based tool, planning teams can synchronize demand, supply, and inventory across the entire organization in real time. S&OP cycles become faster and more collaborative thanks to dynamic scenario planning and unified KPIs. As a consultant or planner, understanding this integration is key because truly resilient planning now means tying shop floor reality directly to boardroom decisions. Sustainability has moved from a checkbox to a core manufacturing priority. S4HANA now helps production planning teams track and reduce the environmental impact of every product run, measuring energy usage, emissions, and more at the transaction level. With embedded ESG reporting and dashboards, you can proactively hit regularity targets and support green initiatives, making supply chain transparency a real competitive differentiator. One of SAP's strongest messages for S4HANA PP is keep your ERP digital core clean. That means no more custom Z programs or modifications that make future upgrades painful. All enhancements, whether new reports, logic, or automations, should be built on SAP's business technology platform using extension frameworks and APIs. This ensures you can adapt and grow at the speed of business without the cost and the risk of technical baggage. The age of artificial intelligence in SAP production planning is here. S4HANA's pMRP and new intelligent algorithms enable the system to identify risks, simulating planning scenarios, and even suggest the best course of action before planner intervenes. Imagine getting early warnings about potential bottlenecks or seeing alternative supply plans ranked by impact. These innovations not only automate routine decisions but also empower planners to operate at a strategic level, enabling more agile, resilient manufacturing. Let us now take a quick recap of everything we have covered, a summary comparison of key changes in SAP production planning from ECC to S4HANA. First, the MRP engine itself. In ECC, we used classic MRP transactions like MD01 and MD02. In S4HANA, we now have MRP Live, which moves MRP logic to the HANA database layer, resulting in much faster and parallel execution. Second, the user interface. ECC relied on SAP GUI reports like MD04. In S4HANA, planners now work with role-based Fiori apps through MRP Cockpit, giving them a more visual, alert-driven planning experience. Third, the production version. In ECC, it was optional in many setups, but in S4HANA, production versions are mandatory for all planned and production orders, which means master data completeness is non-negotiable. Moving on to the planning file and MRP scope, ECC used planning horizons and complex flags. S4HANA streamlines this logic, focusing on net change with low-level code for better performance with MRP Live. The use of MRP areas and subcontracting has also improved. While ECC allowed it optionally, S4HANA strongly recommends MRP area-based planning and gives you better stock segmentation, especially for subcontracting scenarios. Planning strategies have seen a functional simplification. While ECC add a wide range of strategy groups, S4HANA encourages a focused set and introduces DDMRP as an alternative to classic forecast dependent planning. For lot sizing and scheduling, the logic has not changed, but in S4HANA, Execution is much faster and more consistent due to memory processing, that is in-memory processing, and tighter integration with tools like PPDS and DDMRP. The output framework has also shifted. NACE is replaced by BRF Plus, allowing business-driven rule-based output logic across procurement and production departments. When it comes to simulation, ECC using long-term planning, which is hard to use. In S4HANA, pMRP is used, which is a powerful visual simulation tool for scenario-based material and capacity analysis. Advanced planning via PPDS is now embedded directly into S4HANA. There is no more CF transfer, and it supports finite capacity scheduling, sequencing, and pegging in real time. And finally, MRP performance itself. What took hours in ECC can now be done in minutes or even seconds using MRP Live and HANA native models, significantly improving planner responsiveness. So, to sum up, the core logic is familiar, but the execution, performance, and user experience have evolved. Moving to S4 HANA is not just about running faster, it is about planning smarter. S4 HANA is a living product, updated every year. How to track the changes and improvements? SAP publishes simplification lists with every release, so you can track added features, deleted T codes, and changed functionalities. As a learner or consultant, keeping up with these changes gives you a competitive edge. So far, we have seen that S4HANA is not just a technical upgrade, it brings functional changes that matter for business users and consultants alike. Whether it is MRP simplification, strategy group refinement, or faster simulations with the pMRP, the new tools help us plan better, decide faster, and deliver smarter. Our job as consultants is to rethink configurations, educate teams, and unlock the planning potential that S4HANA offers. Let us go beyond migration. Let us help businesses use S4HANA to improve service levels, reduce inventory, and gain planning agility. So let us refresh what we discussed so far through quizzes. These are not just quizzes, but maybe your interview questions. Let us start with the questions on Classic MRP versus MRP Live. So which is the main technical advantage of MRP Live over Classic MRP? What is critical business benefit of adopting MRP Live in S4HANA? Next is Fiori related questions. Which of the following is a core purpose of the Fiori Cockpit in S4 PP, S4HANA PP? How does Fiori's role-based access transform end-user interaction in S4HANA PP? Next on production version. Why is production version now mandatory for in-house manufacture materials in S4HANA? What happens if a valid production version is missing for a material? Now we will see a question on planning file and planning strategies. Which of the planning file simplifications is present in S4HANA PP? Which of the following strategies emphasized by SAP for use with S4HANA? Which planning strategy is being de-emphasized in favor of DDMRP and pMRP? So DDMRP is a concept which is the new evolving planning concept that I will publish a separate course or a separate session on this DDMRP through Fiori application. Which S4HANA planning tool is best suited for detailed simulation of future source or load scenarios before committing plans? When should DDMRP be recommended over Classic MRP in S4 HANA? What is primary use of embedded PPDS in S4 HANA? In S4 HANA, what framework replaces NACE for output forms? For example, shop floor papers, order printouts. Which statement best reflects integration improvements in S4 HANA PP? Where should SAP consultants check regularly for the latest S4 HANA PP updates and Fiori app changes? Thank you for joining this session on ECC versus S4 HANA, the differences in SAP production planning PP model. I hope this gave you a deeper understanding of how SAP S4 HANA changes the way we plan, execute, and manage production. Whether you are a business user, a consultant, or project manager, the shift to S4 HANA is not just about the system performance. It is about business enablement and process evaluation. Evolution is a big change. Keep exploring, keep simplifying, and above all, keep enabling value through SAP. I look forward to seeing you in the next session. Until then, thank you and happy learning.